This is the Tigers Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Detroit Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Here we go. Tigers complete the sweep and welcome back. And just like the Detroit Tigers, I am back. So fired up to be on a live Locked On Tigers postcast, especially after a 7-2 victory over the Arizona Diamondbacks, completing the sweep. That's 4 wins in a row for the Detroit Tigers after it gotten a little rough there. On today's show, this is a live Locked On Tigers postcast, by the way. We're talking about that sweep. And how about Chris Paddock, him shining on the mound today? We'll go over that. Kerry Bonds made an appearance. Kerry Carpenter, of course. And, oh, yeah, Jake Rogers with the power display as well. Of course, I'll have our biggest talking point, our turning point, and our player of the game. So buckle up, dial it in. So fired up to be back with you on a live Locked On Tigers postcast, your post-game destination for all things Detroit Tigers, free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every day. As a reminder, make sure you like and subscribe. We are just days away, hours away from the MLB trade deadline. As always, Locked On Tigers is the place to be. Nothing like Scott Bentley breaking it down, telling you everything you need to know on the daily show. That's why you like and subscribe. Now, as for today, again, just so fired up to be back on a live Locked On Tigers postcast. We'll get that out of the way right away. I mentioned on the last show, vacation was on the horizon, doing some fundraising and charitable activities on the vacation, back in the great state of Michigan and feeling refreshed and rejuvenated as ever. So appreciate everybody welcoming me with open arms back, but it's time to talk Tigers because, man, I got a little scared while I was away, of course, watching every game and getting flustered with the losing that was happening repeatedly night in and night out, the series against the Blue Jays. But we don't need to talk about that. Let's talk about how good this Tigers team played in the 3-game series against the Arizona Diamondbacks and where they are now as a team with the off day tomorrow before the trade deadline concludes, as well as then a huge weekend series in the city of brotherly love against the Phillies, who are also in the midst of a divisional race. So lots of good things to discuss. We begin where we always do, with our biggest talking point.
This is what you'll be talking about.
I talk about Chris Paddock in this one. He gets the win today with 6 innings pitched, just 3 hits, 1 earned run. He struck out 5. He was excellent in his 6 innings of work. In fact, you talk about a guy that's brought in and maybe can give this team a lift, and that's exactly what he did on the mound. Obviously, the injuries becoming absolutely a talking point when it relates to this Detroit Tigers staff. The latest with Alex Cobb. Will we see him at the big league level? We don't know. And so to have a guy like Paddock come in and dominate. I mean, I don't think it's any stretch of the semantics to say he dominated the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, the Arizona Diamondbacks not necessarily going to blow you away offensively, but that being said, there are some all-stars in that lineup. Obviously, Eugenio Suarez at the top of that list had just the 1 hit today at the end of that game. And while we're still talking pitching, I mean, I think it is worth noting how much Canely struggled to get through that 9th inning, gave up the big fly as well. But as far as a lift being brought into this starting rotation, Chris Paddock was superb. And I also got to give him a lot of credit for if you're watching on the YouTube and you watch the game today, the visual display, the old school stirrups made an appearance. You got to love that from Chris Paddock. So great pitching performance today. Jake Rogers called a whale of a game. This Tigers pitching staff could use the boost that he provided. And so again, it's a huge lift for this Tigers team, who are finally hot again. And, I don't love the lose 6 in a row, win 4 in a row, whatever it may be, a little bit of a roller coaster. but hopefully that funk is in the rear view mirror. And I love the comments coming in because your comments are always welcome on a live Locked On Tigers postcast. And see how rusty I am? I forgot to mention that the comments are welcome. Of course they're welcome, especially after a big win there. So appreciate the Tigers making my return to the live Locked On Tigers postcast exciting and a jubilant one at that. And who doesn't love a little day baseball at Comerica Park as well? 7-2, the final in this one. Tigers with the win, 64-46. They're now 36-21 at home. They complete the sweep over the Arizona Diamondbacks. I should also mention for those watching on the YouTube, and if you're listening, I apologize. We'll try to get some type of audio effects on this, but when I went home to Michigan, came home with a new gift. We got a little Tarek Skubal Triple Crown bobblehead that's now proudly displayed in the studio here. So shout out to my grandma who always hooks me up with the bobblehead. So, all right. That concludes for the housekeeping items. Tigers win, and let's get into some of these comments. Matt Wood leaves it off with a little mustache power. How about that? Braylon Dennis says, feels so good to dominate again. Gary Myers, good to have you back, Jake. Appreciate that very much. And a great debut from Chris Paddock. It absolutely was. And now I'm with Trevor here. Let's get Suarez to Detroit. Let's go. Don't let him leave. Don't let him get on that bus to the team plane for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Suarez needs to stay at Comerica Park. It's a must. Let's make it happen. Noah Murray, nice to be able to enjoy watching baseball again. I feel the same way. Noah Murray reminding us to keep it in perspective here. I like this. 11-14 in July felt like 3-100. Indeed, it did. It really did. Trail Goat is next. Paddock looked good. Green hitting again. Get the losing streak out of the way and let's roll. I think that's a great way to put it, Trail Goat. I would agree with that. Let's hope. I mean, in the midst of a 162 game season, those funks are going to happen. And I listened to Scott Bentley on Locked On Tigers this morning and a couple of times while I was out on vacation just to stay up to date on everything. And, if you have a way to almost weather the storm, and in the midst of the storm, it didn't really feel like the Tigers were weathering the storm, but hey, you have a pair of 6-game losing streaks in the month of July and you shake that off and you get back to building that double-digit lead in the division, make some moves at the trade deadline, and maybe just maybe that losing streak served as a wake-up call for Scott Harris and this front office of, hey, we need some help and quickly. So let's hope that was the case for Scott Harris and some moves are made. I think we can all agree we would love to see Suarez in a Tigers uniform. Go get it. Go get that bat and then add a couple of bullpen arms, which would be nice. All right, Demetrius McNeil is up next. He says, Jake, I was at the game Sunday afternoon, and they badly needed a win, and they got it. 3 more wins later. There you go, Demetrius McNeil. You got to love when you're able to see a Tigers victory. So if anybody else was at the game, let us know, because I love hearing about the atmosphere at Comerica Park. All right, Braylon Dennis got that sweep. Indeed, we did. Here's Johnny 2.0. We got comments all over the place and doing my best here. Noah Murray, rather than selling the farm for Suarez rental, I'd love to see them sell it for Quan instead. A base machine who never strikes out with years left. Yeah, Quan would have more club control, and the Guardians putting it out there that he is available, so to speak, in the midst of the trade deadline. He's a guy that in division major deal like that, it's not impossible by any means. I know Carlos Correa, another guy that's on the trading block as well. And depending on when you're listening to this, maybe some moves have been made from the time of recording to the actual consumption of the episode. So if that happens, just a reminder that I'm not crazy, but point being, there are some big names out there. And I love the idea of Stephen Kwan. He is an on-base machine, but the sell with the Guardians in division, I'm sure you'd have to give them quite the appealing package, that's for sure. MSU Detroit fan here says, let Scott cook. Well, let's hope, Scott Harris. I've said this time and time again. This is a Scott Harris era defining deadline. This is how he'll be remembered. This is a legacy deadline for Scott Harris because this Tigers team is in position to make it a year to remember, and nobody's going to be satisfied with just a playoff appearance. You have to build this team to make some noise in the playoffs and ultimately win a World Series. World Series windows don't come around too often. And I know I share the same beliefs as a lot of Tigers supporters and Tigers media members that strike while the iron's hot. And you have the talent in the minor league system. You have the top prospect in baseball. You have a farm system that is loaded with prospects that a lot of teams would sign up for who are going to be in the position of selling. So there you go, Scott Harris. Let's make it happen. Okay, lots to continue to get to. We will, in fact, continue to keep you updated on everything around the Detroit Tigers and continue with our postcast. We got a little off day tomorrow, followed by a weekend series against the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll keep the lights on. We'll get back to this one, have our player of the game and our turning point as we continue to break it down after a Tigers sweep over the Arizona Diamondbacks on a live Locked On Tigers postcast. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Tigers postcast is brought to you by Game Time. Hey, we've all been there, right? Logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale. Tick, tick, tick. You're waiting and waiting, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Killer last-minute deals. Who doesn't love that? If you're like me, you're probably tired of the endless scrolling and trying to find the best deal. And that's where Game Time's zone deals pick the best seats in your section. It's as simple as that. With Game Time, the price you see is also the price you pay. What a concept. No hidden fees. Nothing worse than thinking you get a great deal. You go to check out and you're slapped with fee after fee. Not with Game Time. And you know what? It's time to take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use that code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Today's episode of the Locked On Tigers postcast is also brought to you by our friends at 5 Hour Energy. It's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. And let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. Hey, look, I played a little golf on vacation, had the golf outing, raising money for a scholarship fund. I could have used some 5 Hour Energy. And you know what? I will admit my favorite drink on the course is a transfusion. And how about that grape, ginger, and lime flavor in 5 Hour Energy form? Does it get better than that? So ridiculous shots, none of which I made over the weekend, but hey, had a great time playing golf anyways. It's time to reach for a 5 Hour Energy. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape, ginger, lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use the promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. We are cruising right along on a live Locked On Tigers postcast after a 7-2 win over the Arizona Diamondbacks. Chris Paddock, phenomenal. 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts. He did not walk a batter. How about offensively? You got to give it up for the Kerry Carpenter, who had the RBI triple to make it 1-0, and then got right back into it with a 2-run bomb in the 5th. Colt Keith had an RBI single that scored Jake Rogers. And Zach McKinstry doubling in Wenzel Perez in the 6th. And then Jake Rogers with the little cherry on top exclamation point with his 3rd home run of the season. That made it 7-1. And then, Tommy Kahnle pinched in the 9th. So you know that the Diamondbacks got some runs. I kid. I tease. But it's time now for our biggest turning point after a Tigers win.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Tigers won this game, you could say, with the momentum that they built from the previous 2 games, because they took that field with a charisma and energy and an excitement that looked like the old Tigers before the 2 6-game losing streaks. And with the combination of Paddock on the mound and the offense getting up early in that 3rd inning to make it 1-0 before Colt Keith and the rest of the offense coming to life in that 5th inning, you just felt like this was a game that you didn't necessarily put on cruise control, but you certainly had that thought in the back of your mind that this is a Tigers team that's simply better than the opposition. And they came to play this afternoon, and they're going to earn a sweep and keep it rolling. So the combination of Paddock and the offense leads to the win. This game turned when, in fact, Kerry Carpenter opened the scoring, and then I felt like with that 2-run bomb he hit, there was no looking back. Let's get into our player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Couple of very, very worthy candidates in this one, so we'll have to give out some honorable mentions, not trying to upset anybody on my first day back, but absolutely Kerry Carpenter deserves a nod for his big day at the plate. Had a big day yesterday, too. 3 more RBI today, 2 hits, and of course the 1 2-run homer. Also have to give it up for Colt Keith with 3 hits on the day, scored 2 runs, had the RBI as well. When the offense is clicking the way that they are, and you add in the pitching from Chris Paddock going 6, allowing just the 1 earned run, that's a tough combination. But you know what? Making his Tigers debut, it's not easy to put a different uniform on and just continue on with business as usual, but he provided this team a lift, and that is why he is our Locked On Tigers postcast player of the game. Chris Paddock, 6 innings, just the 3 hits and the 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts. Well done, my friend. As I mentioned, off day tomorrow, looking ahead to the MLB trade deadline. Already tons of deals being made. It's always a fun time of year as a Major League Baseball fan. In fact, I can remember vividly last year waiting. And there goes Jack Flaherty, and the Tigers were complete sellers at the deadline. And what do you know? It just turned the season around, and they never looked back on that magical run to the postseason that culminated with a win over the Astros in the opening round of the MLB playoffs. And it lit a fire. It certainly sparked this team and this ownership, this front office regime, and everybody that is a part of the Tigers organization, because not only did they unexpectedly get to the playoffs last year and have that memorable postseason run, but it continued the momentum to this season, and they've been one of the best teams in baseball all throughout the course of the season. So hoping to continue to see more of that, and we'll be back with you on a live Locked On Tigers postcast on Fridays. Tigers and Phillies. Looking forward to that one, because when you look at what this Tigers team can do against good teams, obviously the Phillies at the top of that list as far as a team that's in a pretty highly contested race in the National League East. All right, so you've got Jack Flaherty going on Friday. against Ranger Suarez. He had such a great year last year. This year he's 8-4 with 2.59 ERA. But both these teams, as touched on in the broadcast, all their starters just strike guys out. Suarez had an insane amount of strikeouts last year. Then you got Scooble going on Saturday. Looking forward to that. Followed by Troy Melton on Sunday. Looking forward to seeing him run it back. So it should be a fun weekend in Philadelphia. Hopefully the Tigers can continue the win streak. Thanks as always for tuning in. I really appreciate all of the comments and the interactions. And of course, being part of the Locked On Tigers postcast community. This is what it's all about. Tigers get the win, complete the sweep over the Diamondbacks. It's a game win streak. We'll see you next time on Friday. In the meantime, make sure you like and subscribe and stay up to date with the Daily Show with Locked On Tigers and Scott Bentley. And I'll be back after the Tigers and Phillies on Friday. Have a wonderful rest of your day and evening. And oh, by the way, if you want to check out the Locked On Lions post-game show, we'll do a Locked On Lions postcast with a few surprises after Thursday's preseason game. Because, hey, it's the Motor City. Detroit hustles harder. Detroit first, everybody. Talk to you next time.